What do I really need for sharpening my tools? Do I need dozens of different sharpening stones? Do I have to spend thousands of dollars in? Did you ever ask yourself one of these questions? In this video, I try to answer them. First of all, you have to think about where to sharpen your tools. Your woodworking bench is not ideal for. Metal dust can stain your bench top and everything you build on top. Especially oak reacts very quickly and extremely. It would be awesome to have a separate room for metalworking or even a second workbench. But I don't have, and you may neither. I am working on a sheet of 1-inch plywood. If the weather is fine, take it outside. In one corner, I nailed 2 small pieces of wood where I can wedge my sharpening stones in between. You can access freely from 2 sides without knocking over the plywood when you have your stones as close to the outer edges as possible. A few tools are needed you may not think about while talking about sharpening. I always use a small square, a file, different screwdrivers, a burnisher, and some old cloth. To protect my tools against rust, I use camellia oil. By the way, to protect your tools against rust while working and lubricate them frequently, take an old can, put some cloth in and fill it up with camellia oil. After every use, you can wipe over the tool and it's always protected. In the past 6 years, I have tried various methods of sharpening. The only thing I don't know enough about to tell you are oil stones. I stopped working with electric sharpening systems. They tend to overheat the tip of the tool if you are not careful. Except I use a cooling system, and you end up with a concave bevel which weakens the tip of the tool. A flat bevel is much stronger. Those you get by sharpening by hand. For sharpening by hand, you have a few different options. I talked about oil stones earlier, but there are water or diamond stones available, and even wet and dry sandpaper will do the job. Sandpaper is the best option for beginners, for it is cheap and easy to use. I recommend buying enough sandpaper with the grids of 400, 600, 800 and 1000. The 800 and 1000 grit sandpaper is what you need the most. But if you have some tear out or scratches to remove, go for the sandpaper with the 400 or 600 grit. For using sandpaper, you need an even surface. I use marble or metal surfaces before, but glass also works. I used some old glass plates that I had on my oven before. Spray some water on the surface you want to use and press the sandpaper on. Then spray a little more. The surface tension will pull the sandpaper tight to the surface and stops it from slipping around. Now your sandpaper is basically a sharpening stone with a removable top. There are a lot of different sharpening stones out there, but you just need 3 to 4 different grids. I know you can go way further, but the difference is in no relation to the cost. Many different sharpening stones can be used with both water or oil. Some special stones are specialized for one of these lubricants. If you chose one lubricant for your stone, you won't be able to ever change that. When you buy your stones, pay attention to how the structure of the grid looks like. Sometimes there are bigger pieces in, which are harder and leaving big scratches. For using water stones, I always have a bucket around, which I use to soak the stones in water. This is necessary so that the water can wash away the metal dirt off the stone and not wash it into the stone. That will cause rust. With a spray bottle, you can lubricate the stone when it starts to dry. The biggest issue with these stones is the fact that they wear out very quickly. You have to reflatten these after every sharpening. On the other hand, diamond stones have a plastic base where small diamonds are glued on. Those are very hard and won't get worn out that quickly. But If they do, you have to buy a new stone. The grit of the diamond stones have no variation to it like natural stones have. You don't have to soak them in water, just spray some water or window cleaner on. My diamond stones are stored in a wooden box, which is not as good as it should be. The base is capped, the stones are tipping. You won't be able to sharpen precisely. For there are various curved tools, there are also various stones out there. I have a set of Arkansas stones to get into the tight corners of my gouges. For those who do not sharpening that frequently, a sharpening guide may be a good investment. I use my Veritas sharpening guide for a few years now. It's always a good way to get the feeling of sharpening back after a month without. Then sharpening by hand is much easier. To remove the burr, I use a leather strop which is glued to a piece of wood. I use some polishing compound to smooth out any inconsistency. I really think that this is a better result than buying extra smooth sharpening stones. I really think that this leaves a better result than any extra smooth sharpening stones. I know there are way more methods, possibilities and strategies. Of sharpening out there. But I wanted to share what I use. If you enjoyed this video, I'd like to recommend the sharpening tutorials which will be released in fall 2018. See you soon.